Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
Surf the waves. This is one of the most amazing conversations that when I go to think about real estate agents and I go to work with them all the time, I will pull up a couple of graphs to try to have an understanding about what's happening in that market before I walk in to do the training.
I.e., so like what do you look at?
So I look at Louis Christopher, for example, on SQM Research.
SQM,
has actually got a really simple thing called total property listings.
Yes.
And you go and type in any postcode in Australia and it will actually go to show you the number of properties that are 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, 90 plus and 180 days plus. But what it goes to show me is, okay, great, so what's the stress or what market is this in?
Yes.
So when you go to think about the cycles, property clock,
Yep.
I used to use Heron Todd White, but it was a bit out of date necessarily to what was going on today, because by the time it's a bit of a lag indicator, whereas an early indicator is total available supply. So if I go and have a look and say, hey, there was 10 houses available for sale, and then there was 20 houses available for sale, and now there's 70 houses available for sale. And I had a guy say to me recently in training, he goes, mate, January and February, I listed one each month. And mate, my business has just gone off in March, bro. I've got like 7 new listings. Like it's unbelievable. But mate, like it went from 10 to 20 to now 70.
Yeah.
So you and every competitor also got lots of great listings all of a sudden at the same time.
Correct. So you actually haven't outperformed the market. The market's just kind of...
But now you've got to realise that the buyer pool
is still the same.
Has got 7 times the number of houses to choose from than what they had 3 months ago. Now that might not be clear because of January, February, March, and there's an uplift post. But that's what you've done, is that you've kind of reversed that graph where you've got lots of listings in January when there's not many available in market. So you build market share and a whole range of buyer work. So let's have a look at some early indicators and where you could go to.
Great.
First one is available supply.
Yes.
Louis Christopher one is really good. And this is a really interesting one because when I go to Queensland, where there is no price transparency in auction sales process, a lot of people don't think that price is the issue. But if I go onto the major real estate portals and I type in that price range, how many available properties actually come up? So does 1 come up or does 20 come up?
Yes.
So if there's 20 all of a sudden in the same unit block, the buyer's got a lot of choice.
Yes.
And so this is really important to know that. The second indicator is current demand. That's best known by number of inquiries you're receiving on a property, or what you and I would look at is probably attendees at an open home.
Yes.
So how many attendees would you think is a good first Saturday for a normal home in your area?
For us, it would be, double digits.
Okay, great. So 10 plus?
10 plus.
So if you got 2, you'd be very concerned.
You're off track.
And so therefore, it's really important to know what is normal for your area.
Yep.
And then chasing buyers. Is it that literally we're getting enough inquiry and enough people coming to open for inspections and the buyer work is kind of looking after itself because the marketing is bringing the buyers to us? Or do we need to go and find a couple of buyers to bring to the market?
Yep.
And that's about saying, okay, great. Do I need to go back through previous appraisals or previous campaigns?
Yeah, lookalike properties.
Yep. Exactly, to try to find buyers.
Yeah.
Hey, Con, you missed out on that one. Do you want to come and look at this one? Or, hey, Con, I know that you're looking to buy. Did you still have an appetite to purchase? We've got a great one here.
Yeah.
And starting to think about that. And that's like really thinking that if we are chasing buyers, do we go back through previous campaigns, market appraisals in the price range before to try to find a buyer seller?
Yeah.
Hey, Con, I know you got the 3 better. We've got this great 4 better. Come and have a look at it. Because if he likes the 4 better, then he might actually sell his 3 better.
Correct.
And so I always say that if you've got a price range that's blocked, sell in the price range before.
Yeah.
And the benefit of doing that is like really phenomenal. And then outside of that, okay, great. Go to create supply where there's demand. So if you go, oh, Josh, we just had this great rocket of a 2 better that's 800 grand and we had 27 buyers through it and we sold it in a week. Can we go and find some other 2 bedrooms worth 800 grand?
Yeah.
Because we know that we've got plenty of buyer demand for that.
Correct.
And I know that sounds silly, but one of the best commercial agents in Australia is a phenomenal guy by the name of Miron Solomons. And he sold the Westpac Bank, I'm going to make it up, but I think the number was like 20 million or something in Double Bay. And what Miron did, which was phenomenal, is I rang him after that sale. I said, oh, mate, congratulations. You had 4 or 5 bidders at the level. That was really exciting. And he goes, yeah. I said, what are you doing now? He goes, I'm going back to the office. I said, oh, okay. I thought you'd kind of finish early today or something. He goes, no, mate. He goes, literally, I've got 4 other bidders that bid up to 20 million.
I've got to go find them something.
Now I've got to go and find for $20 million city fringe assets for them to buy.
Yeah.
And like we were kind of taught in real estate training with auctions, to say, when an underbidder misses out, you walk up and say, commiserations, better luck next time.
No.
Not now.
No. But you know what? It's so interesting. We sold a acreage property that had a tennis court, swimming pool, and it had, enough arable land for horses. We got a great result. RP data found very similar sized blocks that had tennis courts, swimming pools, and you could have, some paddocks for horses. It's very simple to pick up the phone and say, look, you're probably not thinking of selling, but we've just sold this one down the road. I've got 4 people who missed out that want to, it's pretty basic, right?
And that's a great one with a lot of the council replanning regulations here in Sydney.
Yeah.
Certain proximity to rail, it gives a different density of development. Right. Like that's not hard to identify those key properties that your property could be impacted.
The government's given you a map. All you need to do is go follow the map.
Right. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
If you're a seller, the seller, they need to be aware of that. And we use this quite a lot in our set to sell meeting. We're saying, hey, I was actually really surprised about the number of properties in our market that have been on for more than 90 days and more than 180 days.
Yeah.
And let me show you this data. And isn't it amazing that X percentage of all the properties have been on for that time? And that was not a thing that we'd kind of experienced. But what I would say to you is that it does turn out that the agent that you choose will have a significant bearing on the sale price that you actually receive. So sale methodology, pricing strategy, marketing and positioning are all going to be really important conversations. So what I want to do is that actually when I'm working with the seller, and whether or not it's at the listing presentation, and sometimes that is important because if you've got someone who's trying to overprice it as a competitor, making sure that you can make them aware that this could be a concern.
Correct.
And the secondary part is that even if it's in the setup to sell, hey, how do you feel the market's currently tracking?
Yeah.
What are you reading in the papers? What do you think the sentiment is? Do you think Australians or New Zealanders, for that impact, are out there going, woo, let's, spend heaps? Or is it a bit more like, conserve your bickies and save a bit in terms of savings and, be very humble in terms of your approach? So this is where I'm actually saying to them, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, I actually think that it's the agent's duty that every week at a minimum that we're showing to them, hey, what's new to market, what's been sold, and what's also had a price reduction.
Yep.
Now, on my vendor report template, I've got to update that because I only have what's new to market and what's been sold, but I don't think about what's actually had a price reduction. Now, I've been doing quite a bit of work in Queensland at the moment, and I'm saying to people, well, after 30 days, there's full price transparency if people are going to the for sale method after they've not sold at auction.
Correct.
So now we have a for sale price and we're actually tracking the sales results or the price reductions. So this is important about how you got to do that, and there's some automated software that's out there that's attempting that. But also in addition to that, like on Domain, for example, if you favourite every property, it sends you an alert when there's an update.
That's exactly right.
And so you've still got to compare the pair, but you can see that $50,000 or $100,000 price reduction. Now, if I could actually say, hey, Con, there's been 5 properties that have all had a price reduction, and the average is $50,000, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, cool. Well, then that's probably natural that you're probably going to need to do the same. So this is really important to, think about when you're surfing the waves, things like compare and contrast. Now, let's say, for example, a property's on the market at $1 million and you have an offer of $951,000. You've got to be very careful how you present that because that's within what I go to call striking range. So 5%.
Yep.
How you present that information is really important.
Correct.
Now, if I have another offer of $899,000,
the
$899 makes the $951 look like it's great
exactly
money.
Right.
So, and what the newer person to real estate, or potentially the amateur as opposed to the professional, would do, but there isn't another offer. You've got to find me another person.
Correct.
That would be interested at $899.
That's right.
So then the offer of $951 looks like the money. So that's an interesting skill. And then the other key thing that I often say to people is, what did they pay for the asset? And what do you mean? Okay, great. So let's say, for example, they paid $800,000 for the asset and they're selling it today for 1.2. And you have a look at that, $400,000 over 800, it's a 50% increase in capital growth.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, I don't want to sell it unless I get to 1.3.
Yeah.
Well, okay, great. Well, you're looking for 500 over 800, or you're looking for a bit more of an improvement of like 60%. The market's responded at 50. We've seen, for example, a 43% increase in a 43% decrease in borrowing capacity, a 70% increase in mortgage cost.
Yes.
So from that point of view, you're actually doing really well right now.
Correct.
So the time that the market's going to take to respond to that is probably 2 or 3 years, but your holding costs are X. So this is learning to help people through some muddied waters of understanding financials to make better decisions.
But I also think, mate, the key out of this is you need to learn how to surf. So you need to be able to look where all this data's coming from. What are the lead indicators? What are the lag indicators? You know, one of the things that we've taken out of your blueprint is if we don't have an offer by day 14, we are off track. You know, we've got Amit Nayak, one of our partners. He's listed 33 properties this month, which is a record for him, right? And he usually sell between 20 and 30 properties a month, call it 25. And so one of the key things for him was vendor management and how to manage that many vendors. And he does a vendor meeting with every single one of them. He doesn't go to their house. He does it all online. But one of the things he does say when he's doing his set to sell is, hey, if we are off track, I will come and see you. If we're on track, we'll keep our video calls. So guess what happens on a Saturday when he gives them a call and says, hey, Josh, when's a good time for me to pop out and see you? They already know it's off track, right? So this is really important. You got to learn how to surf.
Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
Con, you know, I've had the great opportunity to be able to work out of the UAE for the last 8 years. And, you know, that market was, you know, it was challenging. And we've now gone into a position that it's challenging in a different way with pace. And to give you a bit of an idea, they've gone from 12,000
Sales
in off plan
per annum
to now 120,000 sales off plan per annum.
In what period?
2 years.
Wow.
So a 10x size of increase in actual transactions.
Wow.
So the problem with that is actually scaling up and growing lots of great talent.
Yes.
And so one of the things that I said to Haus Haus, and you know, Simon and James and Luke have been phenomenal in their directorship, and now Charlie involved in that business. They said, oh, you know, Josh, what could we do? And I said, well, you know, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to find out what new people want to know. So who are the banks and how do we put a transaction together?
Who
and
are the
how do we take an
developers
offer?
and which are the builders?
And what's the payment plans that are on offer? And so there was a whole range of skills. And so we spent literally 3 days of just taking the most common questions that were asked, and we gathered all of the knowledge and we built out their operating system. And that Haus Haus operating system is so good because people go and search, okay, great, what are the current projects that are available? What are the payment plans that are available? How do you actually put a deal together? How do you take an offer? How do you do foreign exchange? Who do you call if you're in trouble? If you've got a situation when you need to help with completion, how does that work? You actually, and then what they then did is that they have got the discipline in this business that every year we re-record 1 hour and 1 hour only on how to be the best in off-plan, how to be amazing in residential sales, how to be phenomenal in residential leasing, but it has to be 1 hour of less on the absolute basics of becoming the best in that. So we're refining and building better quality knowledge to really make their people phenomenal. So there's not 400 hours to listen to.
It's 1
hour only, and we've got to call it the essentials.
I love that.
And the discipline has been really phenomenal in scaling, because when you think about it, they've got 5 really core values sitting inside of that business. We have a How to Be Successful at Haus Haus podcast, which is a 1 hour only, but it's pretty amazing to watch. So documented knowledge will be the fuel for all the future of what AI will do in your business.
Love that. An experience that I've recently had firsthand, right? So we do a lot of events, as you know, and we had an event at the last year at a hotel, a pub. And you were there. And we've done lots of events at this place, and the experience that we had was quite average, to be honest. The food wasn't great. The room wasn't set up. We were there at 6:30 in the morning, resetting things up. And you know what our events are like. We make them feel like an event. Anyway, it got back to the owner. Now, the owner, I won't name them, but the owner is a billionaire. And I got a call, and you know when your phone it says it might be someone calling? For some reason it came up with this person's name. I went, no, this is going to be a scam. I answered it. And it was this gentleman. And he said, Con, I heard that you had a very poor experience at one of my hotels. He owns 82. Okay, he has 5,000 employees. And he said to me, people listening now have probably worked it out. And he said to me, I would love to know what happened. And I said, well, I can go through it with you. I was just about to say his name. I can go through it with you, but why don't I get my team to speak to you? He goes, no. What time can I be at Parramatta to meet them? And he drove to Parramatta and he sat down with Rachel, our head of operations, our business manager, and she went through all of those points. Now, what that signals to me, first of all, you don't need people avoid conflict, but this guy is so connected to his business at the grassroots that doesn't want any customer to ever walk away from his establishment. Think about that next time, and every single person that's listening to this is in a leadership position. Pick up the phone and make that call to be able to smooth things out.
What I love about that is that Rachel sat in our most recent training and she sat through every session.
She did.
And then she came back with like a full dossier on how we could improve the business.
Well, because our theme this year is better is better.
Something that's changing your view.
Con, let's edit the videos.
What do you mean?
So now we've got the longer form 1 minute video that makes it to the major real estate websites.
Yep.
And then now we're going to have like 4 or 5 short reels that are going to go. So this one's like launching soon.
Yes.
Available this weekend.
Yes.
Open this Saturday.
Right.
Literally auction this week. Now sold.
Yep.
So 10 to 15 second reels.
Yeah.
And the idea is that when they do the cut and edit, to try to make it look different as a different property.
That's clever.
To drive the perception of significant market share.
I like that. I want to take that.